So let's go into the laboratory. The laboratory is where you conduct a lot of your experiments and spend a lot of your time there, because there are a lot of things that you learn along the way and you need to experiment them out, test things, touch things, know how certain gases smell, know how to make certain chemicals, be able to test some chemicals and say, okay, this is ammonium, this is hydrogen, this is oxygen. Okay, so a lot of experiments can be done in the laboratory, and you can be able to really see the theory playing out practically in the laboratory. So the laboratory is going to be a very good place for you to learn a lot of things and to test out a lot of things. So we need to know about the laboratory, therefore. Okay, we need to know what it is, what do we find there, and then what are the uses of the things that we find there. That's our presentation for today. So the laboratory is basically any room just like this, where you find laboratory equipment, or what we call laboratory apparatus, the tools that we use in carrying out experiments. So the ones we call the laboratory apparatus. So basically, you can use the word apparatus alone, and it is actually enough. Okay. Don't know why my pen isn't writing. Okay, let me just connect here. Okay, so the laboratory apparatus, what's happening? Warning? Warning? Okay, it's disturbing. It's okay, I found a way. This pen was refusing, but it's okay now. I guess you'll cut up that part. So the laboratory apparatus are the equipments or the tools that we basically use in the laboratory. Okay, and then you'll also find a person who is in charge of the laboratory, and that person is the laboratory technician. Okay, he's the one who makes sure that you have the appropriate chemicals and they are in the appropriate containers and they're actually secure, because these chemicals are actually, when we get exposed to them, they can cause health problems to us. So the laboratory technician ensures that you have these chemicals in the appropriate containers and they are well secured and safe to use. Okay, so that therefore means that you will need to cooperate with the technician so that you have a good experience within the lab. And then the chemicals, will be mixing a number of chemicals, whether it is nitrates, whether it is sulfates, whatever, a lot of chemicals. So these are basically substances that we'll use for you. You will be using for your experiments in the lab. Okay. So what is an experiment? I've been talking about it here. For example, you may decide to show, or you may decide to demonstrate the process of diffusion. So you get a beaker, you put water there, and then you drop potassium permanganate, and then the color of the water changes. That is an experiment to demonstrate diffusion, isn't it? Yes, so that is basically an experiment, a practical activity that you do in the lab using different apparatus and chemicals. Okay? And then we come to the apparatus that we use. Okay, we have a lot of apparatus that we use in the laboratory. So what do we use them for? And in this presentation, I've categorized the different apparatus in different categories based on what we use them for. Okay, so we are starting with those that we use for measuring. So measurement apparatus. Beaker is one of the commonest, this one here. You'll use it for measure a particular volume of a liquid, or you can use it for holding some liquid, or you can use it for mixing two liquids, or you can use it for heating liquids. Okay, so you are seeing here, we are saying that we are looking at the apparatus for measurement, but we have seen that it is beyond actually measurement, that you can have one apparatus crossing over into the other types of apparatus. And then we come to the measuring cylinder. Still, you can use it for measuring a particular volume of fluid or liquid, basically, with some good accuracy. So that is what makes it different from a beaker. You see a beaker, you move from 100, you go to 200, isn't it? But with the measuring cylinder, you have some graduations. These marks are the ones we call graduations. These graduations allow you to be more accurate compared to here where you don't have marks in between. If we had marks in between, it makes the beaker more accurate. But since we don't have marks in between, for example, for you to choose 350, you may approximate it to be here, 350. But here, when you want, for example, 220, you can be able to know that should be, when you in the middle of that, you should be having 225. So 220 is closer there. Okay, so that is the measuring cylinder and the beaker. So we move to the next, conical flask, based on the shape. This is a cone-like structure, cone-like shape. Okay, that is a conical flask. Graduations, that means it can be used for measuring because of the graduation, but you can use it for holding and also mixing. And then we have the burette. The burette, graduations for measuring and dispensing, letting the fluid move to another container. It can be a beaker, it can be a conical flask. Okay, that is what we call dispensing. You open at this end and let the liquid flow. That is dispensing, making sure it flows into. Okay, so that's the burette. And then we have a pipette. A pipette is also, it has a graduation, you can see, right? 25 mils. We have others of different volumes. So still, it is used for measurement, but it provides precise measurements for transferring to another apparatus for holding liquids. Okay, and then the burette, we have looked at it, I think, here. Just had a repeat. Spatula, scooping. It's used for scooping. It's just like a spoon. It can be made out of wood. It can be made out of a metallic. It can be a metal. It can be a plastic. Okay, but of course, the different material that is used to make a spatula make them suitable for scooping. Certain chemicals are not bearers. If you, for example, have a corrosive chemical, then you may think about the type of the spatula that you're going to use. And then we have the dropper. So the dropper is still used for measurement, because the dropper, you can see here, you hold it when you place it in a liquid, you hold the bulb here. You hold it's soft. Okay, when you hold it and then release it, it will suck up the liquid, and then you transfer the liquid into another container. Okay, so that is about the dropper. It's used to transfer a small sample of liquids from one holding. It could be a beaker, conical flask, to another. Okay, so it is in nails. Okay, that's something. And it may not be very accurate if you want a specific names of the liquid. It may not be very accurate, but you can still use it to transfer liquids if accuracy is not your main concern. pH meter. You look at what pH is. pH is about the degree of acidity and alkalinity of a substance. That's what we call pH. We can measure pH using a pH meter. Okay, using pH meter. Thermometers for measuring temperature. And then we come to the triple beam balance. Triple beam balance. So here you have these weights that you have to move. There is that weight, there's another weight. So this is the weight, the substance whose weight you want to determine is placed. It can be placed inside a beaker if it is the volume. If you're measuring the weight of a particular volume of a liquid, okay, and then you place it here, and then move this way such that it balances at a 0 mark here. Okay, so these weights here that I started with, they are the ones that you move such that you have a balance. When you balance, then you take the readings. Okay, we'll look at how to take the readings of the beam balance. We shall look at that in the subsequent sessions. And then you want to measure still mass of a chemical. Okay, so here we just place it here, switch the electronic balance on, and it gives you the reading in grams. Okay, it's very accurate. It may be more accurate here, maybe more accurate than the triple beam balance, because here there could be errors that you will introduce as you're moving, but here it just gives you 2.6 grams. That's what you want, yes, when you move your thing. Okay. Okay. Another weighing tool is the spring balance. You put what you want to weigh here, you hang it, and then the thing will move along the graduation. Then you pick the mark and note it down. And then we have the stopwatch. There are some experiments that you will be doing that will require you to determine for example, how much gas is released in 5 minutes. So the 5 minutes, you need to time that. When the timing stops, then you stop and then take the measurement. That you use a stopwatch to do such kind of experiments. So we go to the second category of apparatus, the ones that we use for seeing how the chemical reactions happen. Okay, the chemical reactions can happen in a test tube. They can happen in, for example, how do you hold the test tube, for example? Okay, so these are the type of apparatus that we're going to look at under reaction apparatus. Okay, so we have the test tubes. They are very good for carrying out small tests. If you want to see the reaction of let us say, solid. If you heat a particular solid, how how does it behave, okay? How does it react and how will it appear? Use a test tube. And then, since you're going to heat it, you will not be holding it directly. Therefore, you need to have a holder. This is wood. Wood is a bad conductor of heat. Therefore, you can hold it and then place the test tube on a source of heat. Okay, so that's the test tube holder. And then these test tubes are glasses, and you can see that they are very small. They cannot be stable if you put them on a table, so they need to be held in place using the test tube rack. So you place the test tube inside, and then it will not fall and spill the content. And then sometimes you may want to stir the content, that means either in a beaker or in a volumetric flask, conical flask, okay? You can stir the content using a stirring rod, okay? And then we have watch glass. These ones, you can be used for covering the beaker if you don't want things to be evaporating, okay? So you cover the beakers using the watch glass. And then you have the funnel, okay? If, for example, you're transferring a liquid and you don't want that liquid to spill on the surface of the table or in the laboratory, so you need to use a funnel to be able to direct that liquid into a particular container that you want. So that is what we call a funnel. So you pour your liquid there. And then we go to the heating apparatus. The Bunsen burner is what mostly you'll be using in the laboratory, but you also have other heating sources, okay? So the Bunsen burner, you can use it to warm, to heat to high temperatures, so sterilization, and also to see combustion reactions in types of flames. And then the tripod stand. So for example, you want to heat the beaker. You can place the tripod stand above the Bunsen burner, and then you can put the tripod and the beaker here. Okay, you put the beaker there, and then your source of heat there. So that's to support the beaker or flask during heating. And then the wire goes, you place it on top of the tripod stand. The beaker may not fit here properly, so you put the wire goes there, and then you can put your beaker or any other flask that you're going to use for heating. And then we have what we call the crucible and the crucible tongs. These are the tongs. This one here is used for holding hot things, isn't it? So this is the crucible. The crucible is used for heating substances. So if you have heated a substance, you don't need to hold the crucible directly with your hands, but you can use the crucible tongs to be able to catch the crucible. So this is the evaporating disc. You want to heat a substance and then it evaporates. Okay, you can use that evaporating disc. Flat bottom flask. Okay, still for heating, for holding liquids, for different purposes. Okay, but you can also use it for holding liquids that you can use for different procedures. And then the round bottom flask. The unique thing with the round bottom flask is that, of course, it is not going to be stable. You can't put it on a table and it is stable. No, you need to support it. Okay, so this kind of shape that you see here, the kind of shape that you see here, is very important for distributing heat. If you're heating a substance and you want the heat to be distributed uniformly, you need to use a round bottom flask. So we look at the safety equipped apparatus, the ones that you can use for protecting yourself. Safety goggles, protecting your eyes. The lab coat, avoiding spillages or splashes. It's a chemical may spill onto your skin if you don't have a coat. So the coat basically protects you. The gloves, very important if you touch chemicals that are very corrosive. And then the fire extinguisher. Okay, and then the fire extinguisher for putting off fire if you have fire in the laboratory. And then we have these apparatus that are very important for different roles, and we have failed to put them into the appropriate category. We have the mortar and pestle for grinding substances, solid substances into fine particles. The microscope for looking at small things that you can see with our naked eyes. The clamps and the stand. This is the stand, and then these are the clamps, okay, for holding other apparatus. And then the filter, okay, if you want to separate, for example, a mixture that contains a liquid and solids. Okay, so that basically marks the end of this presentation where we have looked at the laboratory and the different apparatus and their uses. Thank you.